guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. You know, I'm always amazed when society comes out and they say that men are toxic and bad and unnecessary and the patriarchy and we just need you to go away. And then the minute a little bit of trouble comes out, a little bit of problems break out, they come sniffing and scratching around saying, hey, yeah, can you do us a favor? We're going to turn around when you're done with this favor and tell you you're horrible people again, but right now we need you. And this is just more proof that men are only as good for society as what they provide for society, not that we just actually exist. And that's the way of the world. It is what it is. But interesting story here. Now this photo I found, and I thought it was really interesting, is from Vietnam during from 50 to 75. And this is the color one, which means it was probably later taken. These guys would be in their 20s during Nam. They'd be 75 today, 70-ish today. So these are the guys that they're talking about. Believe it or not, they're calling on them to help NATO and the U.S. to solve the problem in Ukraine. And I like this photo because it has Joker, the card Joker in his helmet. Anyway, the U.S. retirees call in to make Stinger missiles and boost for Ukraine. They basically, Biden's come out and they're like, yeah, we're out of ammo. We've given away all our ammo. So needless to say, China's looking at that little island off their coast and just salivate and getting ready. And now they're talking about sending different types of munitions. Well, the things that were doing really well, apparently against Russia, were the old style Stinger missiles. And so they said, hey, let's get more of these over there, but we can't use 3D printing. We can't use modern design because it has to go through review. And if it goes through review, that can sometimes take a year or two. It won't be over there in time to help. So ring, ring, they're calling the old dudes that used to make them because nobody that's around today can make them. They say retired engineers are being called on to help make Stinger missiles through the crucial to Ukraine's fight against Russia. It has been reported. The U.S. has dispatched to Ukraine nearly 2,000 of these heat-seeking man-portable air defense systems, man-pads they call them. A man-pad that actually does something functional. How ironic. Made by Raytheon, which have proved effective in shooting down Russian aircraft. This week, the Biden administration said it would send Kyiv even more. The FIM-92 Stinger helps troops without immediate air support target an enemy aircraft. It was first produced in 1978 and has been upgraded many times. They say using 3D printing and automation is not possible in manufacturing the Stinger because that would mean redesigning the weapon and a lengthy weapons certification process. Now, if you guys have been following me for a little while, you remember I guess it would have been 2.5 years ago now. Gosh, time flies so fast. When I was driving across the country, they had I think it was a Russian hacker group hacked the southern, I want to say southeast energy production or refineries and distributors of diesel and gasoline. And there were a lot of stations that they didn't have any fuel anymore. And I know this firsthand because I was in a bus that could go 250 miles without refueling. And everywhere I went, they're like, we're out of diesel. We don't know when we're going to be getting any back in. And what did they end up doing to fix the problem? They paid them off. Why? Because all the men that could go in and manually override the pumps and the systems and everything that had been shut down computer-related, all those men had retired, and they hadn't retrained the next guys to do it. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of infrastructure over the next 20, 30, 40 years as the guys that are knowledgeable and retire or, leave us from old age. We're going to be in a lot of problems. I really believe that. They say you'd have to redesign the entire seeker in order to automate it. Wes Kremer, the president of Raytheon, a business of Raytheon Technologies Corporation that specializes in integrated air and missile defenses, told Defense One. And here's a picture of one of the Stingers there. So the weapons must be made the same way they were 4 decades ago. We were bringing back retired employees that are in their 70s, he told the outlet, stating that they were using decades-old blueprints. So again, the guys that originally designed this stuff, the guys that put it together, the guys that used it, they're giving them a call and like, hey, can you help us out? We'd really appreciate it. So again, they're scratching around looking for the good old smart men to come back and save everybody. They say we're pulling test equipment out of warehouses and blowing the spider webs off of them. The company was also redesigning some of the componentry because the electronics used in the missile were obsolete. Newsweek has contacted Raytheon for further comment. Military analyst Alan Orr told Newsweek that for Ukraine, the Stingers have all the intents and purposes the Stingers have for all intents and purposes run out, and Russia now knows this. He said that it has hampered Ukraine's counteroffensive because without air cover, the forces can't run the gauntlet of the mines and artillery. Without Stingers, they're even worse off and find themselves sitting ducks to attack helicopters at standoff distances. What I find interesting about this is that, for all the technology we have today, drones are making a huge difference. A lot of this targeting stuff, a good old heat-seeking missile, now I don't know, a chopper or some of these other things can fire off flares, but what's interesting is they only have so many fires before they're dry, and that is, once that's out, that's it, and the missiles become much more useful. I think it's really interesting that technology that is from the 70s, 50 years old, is being called upon because it was so effective. It just shows you that some things well designed by men work really well, doesn't it? They say it was pivotal. They're how the Ukrainians hold the high ground, low-key, low-tech. Then they kind of go on they talk about, who supports all this stuff and all that other stuff. But I did want to mention this because this is so clutch. So many times, and you guys know this because, it's fantastical to say, women will love you for who you are. Just be you. Yeah, some women may end up loving you because of that, but I'll tell you this, you can be the funniest, most interesting, great guy out there, and if you aren't able to provide a home and stability and money, and well, she doesn't want you. If you're not able to, at least with young women today, if you're not able to be handsome or attractive or tall or whatever floats their boat, your utility, even if you can provide the other things, they want the entire package. And a lot of guys get really upset about this, and they get angry, and they say, the world's not fair. How dare you? Genetics. But these are the same things that when these women don't want you and they ignore you when you're young, when you're older, the same women that are now in their 50s and you're maybe in your 50s or 60s are like, oh, please come save me. And we turn them down for the same reasons, genetics. And you don't offer me anything now. I wanted you to offer me beauty and youth and fertility and nice curves and firmness and all this other stuff, and now that's gone. So it is the way the world works, and you can rage against the machine, or you can just understand, hey, you know what, this is the way things go. And so here you've got these guys that are retired in their 70s, and they're probably being offered some pretty good bank to come back and help everybody out. It'd be interesting to see if they actually go in and help. And, this reminds me of a real world life experience that I've had, is my father retired when he was 55. He was very good at investing. We did not live extravagantly. We didn't buy a whole lot of new cars. I don't remember too many new vehicles in my life. Most of the vehicles my father owned were 10 or 15 years old, and only when it became more expensive to kind of do the upkeep than it was worth, that's when he'd go out and buy a new vehicle. And because of this, he was able to invest very well, and he worked for, I won't say where, but he had a degree in mechanical engineering and some other things, and he ended up getting called back. They gave him a call when he was in his 60s. And the reason why he left is they were bringing in young engineers with fresh degrees, bringing them in for half the price that these older engineers that had been there for 30 years that were getting paid. They brought them in for half the price, and then they made those guys the boss. And my father said, I'm not doing this. I'm not listening to some wet behind the ears college grad who he may have his degree, but he doesn't know what's going on, coming in and telling everybody what to do and how to do it. And that just doesn't work for me. And that's why I left. And he was in such a good spot that when they called him and said, hey, please come back, we'd really appreciate it. We'll offer you a very substantial amount of money. He talked to my mom about it, and he said, financially, we're fine. I mean, we'd be more fine if we took these, a couple of years worth of, 2 or 3 times my old salary. And my mom, and they talked about it, and they're just like, nah, now we're good. We're retired. Let's move on with our thing. And I think that's very important. And my father had another friend who still to this day travels around, and this guy's like late 60s, early 70s. So he was about 15 years younger than my dad, but they were friends down in Florida. Still to this day, he hops on a plane and flies around the world. And I think he works for a company called Ingersoll Rand. Maybe I'm wrong, but and he works on pumps and compressors and boilers and equipment, and he gets paid out the backside because they're not training anybody to do this. So they just pay him, to do it, and then once he's done, they'll have to find a new way to support this stuff. But it just goes to show you that with all the hate and the toxicity against men and everything else, when they need you, when the chips are down, when the crapola hits the fan, they have no problems picking up that phone and start calling around, begging for help. Just remember that. So as much as you feel like you're disliked or unappreciated today, you never know, that phone may ring and they may need you again someday, because here they are calling up 70-year-olds to save us in a very modern warfare situation with weaponry that is 50 years old. Guys, I'll leave it there. Don't forget to join us over on betterbachelor.locals.com. Great community. You can become a supporter today, $5 a month. I've got a little bit of a membership drive, so I hope you guys decide to go over there today. You get the same experience you get here, a little bit more content in many cases, ad-free, because I don't read ads and I don't have any ads over there, and censorship-free. And that's the big thing. Then you can talk in the comments and say what you want to say instead of having to dance around for Big Mama YouTube. Guys, I'll leave it there. I'll have another one out for you here right after this one. We'll see you soon.